The snow fell gently outside, blanketing the city in a soft white coat. It was December, and Christmas lights twinkled in every corner, but inside a small apartment, the warmth of the season felt distant. Emma Thompson, a single mother of 7-year-old Sophie, sat at the kitchen table with bills scattered around her. Her eyes were tired, and her hands shook as she clutched a notice she had received earlier that day. Sophie peeked from behind the door, her small hands clutching a worn stuffed bunny. "Mommy, are we going to be okay?" she whispered, her voice barely audible. Emma forced a smile. "Of course, sweetie," she said softly, though her heart raced. "Everything will be fine." But deep down, Emma wasn't so sure. She worked at Langford Corporation, a massive company known for its strict deadlines and high expectations. Emma had poured her heart and soul into her work, often staying late to ensure every project succeeded. Yet despite her dedication, she had received notice that the department was over budget and some layoffs were coming. Sophie, perceptive beyond her years, sensed the tension. She knew something was wrong, and the fear of losing her mother was already forming in her young heart. The next morning, the apartment was filled with the soft hum of the heater and the smell of cinnamon from the small spice jar Emma sprinkled on oatmeal. Sophie tried to eat, but her small appetite had vanished overnight. "Mommy, do you think Mr. Langford will really fire you?" Sophie asked, pushing her spoon around her bowl. Emma knelt down, her eyes level with Sophie's. "Sweetheart, people sometimes make mistakes, and sometimes things aren't fair. But I'll do everything I can to fix it," she reassured, giving Sophie a gentle hug. Sophie nodded, her little mind whirring. She had decided something overnight. She would save her mommy. Somehow. At Langford Corporation, CEO Jonathan Langford sat in his corner office on the top floor. The room was decorated with expensive ornaments and a grand Christmas tree, shining under the city lights. He looked down at the performance reports spread on his mahogany desk. "Her performance is above average," said his assistant, Karen. "But the department is over budget. She might not survive the next round of cuts." Jonathan didn't look up. "We can't let sentimentality affect the company," he said firmly. "Numbers matter, not personal stories." Meanwhile, Sophie was thinking, if she could somehow speak to Mr. Langford, maybe she could convince him not to fire her mommy. But how? She was just 7, and he was a big, important man. Back at home, Sophie sat on the floor with crayons and a piece of red construction paper. She carefully wrote, "Please don't fire my mommy. She's the best. Love, Sophie." She decorated the card with hearts, snowflakes, and tiny handprints. She wrapped it in a ribbon and tucked it into her little backpack. "I'll give this to him," she said aloud, determination in her voice. "He has to see it. Mommy can't lose her job." Her plan was simple. Deliver the card to the office herself. It sounded impossible, but Sophie believed in miracles. Sophie put on her little red coat and scarf. The snow crunched under her tiny boots as she made her way to the towering office building downtown. Her fingers were numb, but she held the card tightly. At the lobby, the receptionist's eyes widened. "And what brings you here, little one?" Sophie looked up with innocent courage. I have something for Mr. Langford," she said softly. The receptionist smiled and, seeing the determination in Sophie's eyes, led her to the elevator. Jonathan looked up from his paperwork when the elevator doors opened. His eyes widened slightly at the sight of a tiny girl standing nervously in front of him. I have something for you," Sophie said, holding out the card. "Please don't fire my mommy. She works really hard. She's the best mommy in the whole world." Jonathan took the card, surprised by the courage and sincerity in her voice. He looked into her wide, pleading eyes. Something stirred in him, memories of his own childhood, of his mother's sacrifices, and of innocence long forgotten. After Sophie left, Jonathan stared at the card, reading her words again and again. The office felt colder than ever, but the tiny card seemed to warm a part of him that had long been frozen by corporate rules and numbers. Meanwhile, Sophie returned home, exhausted but proud. She didn't know if her plan would work, but she had tried. Emma was in the kitchen, her head in her hands. "Sophie, what did you do today?" she asked softly. I gave Mr. Langford the card," Sophie admitted, smiling faintly. He looked different. I think he liked it. Emma hugged her daughter, tears stinging her eyes. You're so brave, Sophie. Whatever happens, I'm so proud of you. That night, the Thompson apartment smelled faintly of cinnamon and pine from their tiny Christmas tree. Sophie went to bed, clutching her stuffed bunny. She whispered a prayer, hoping that somehow Christmas magic would save her mommy's job. Emma, sitting by the window, looked out at the snow falling softly. She allowed herself a small glimmer of hope. Maybe, just maybe, everything would turn out all right. The night was quiet, but in the hearts of mother and daughter, a small spark of hope was growing, one that would soon ignite into a miracle they could never have imagined. The morning sun barely filtered through the frost-covered windows of the Thompson apartment. Sophie awoke with a mixture of excitement and worry. Today, she thought, might be the day everything changed. She looked at her little handmade card from Mr. Langford, still safely tucked in her backpack. Her small fingers traced the letters she had written. Please don't fire Mommy. She whispered it aloud, hoping the magic in her words would travel to the CEO's office. Emma was already in the kitchen, preparing a simple breakfast. Her eyes were heavy with fatigue, yet she tried to keep the warmth in her voice. Sophie, did you sleep well? Emma asked, trying to smile. Sophie nodded, her expression serious. Mommy, I hope Mr. Langford likes my card. He has to. You can't lose your job. Emma's heart ached. She knew that Sophie carried the weight of worry far too much for her age. Sweetheart, no matter what happens, I'll always be okay. And we'll face everything together, she said, hugging her daughter tightly. Meanwhile, at Langford Corporation, Jonathan Langford couldn't shake the card from his mind. He sat at his massive desk, the glow from his computer screen reflecting in his eyes. The numbers were clear. Emma's department was over budget, and corporate rules were rigid. Yet, as he recalled Sophie's pleading face, something stirred inside him, an unfamiliar tug of conscience he hadn't felt in years. He reviewed Emma's performance files again. Every project she had led was executed with precision and heart. She had gone above and beyond, even volunteering to stay late to train new employees. Jonathan rubbed his temples, conflicted. Could the cold, unfeeling numbers outweigh the human side of his company? Sophie knew she had done all she could with the card, but she felt the story wasn't finished. She decided to write a small letter to accompany the card, explaining why her mommy worked so hard, how she cared for everyone, and how important her job was for their little family. She wrote with pure honesty. My mommy helps people and works very hard. She smiles even when tired. Please don't take her away. She is my hero. Love, Sophie. This second letter, even more heartfelt than the first, was carefully folded and placed behind the original card. Sophie felt a warmth inside her chest, as if she was sending a little piece of her soul to Mr. Langford. At the office, Emma arrived early, unaware that Sophie had personally delivered the first card the day before. She walked past the gleaming marble floors, greeted her colleagues with polite smiles, and tried to focus on her tasks. Yet, a shadow of fear lingered over her. Every glance at her inbox felt like a countdown to the inevitable. Her supervisor, Mr. Whitman, called her into his office. Emma, we've reviewed your performance, he said curtly. You know the situation. The company must reduce costs, and your department is in the red. Emma's heart sank. Understand, she said quietly, though her mind raced. She couldn't imagine what this would mean for Sophie. Jonathan, meanwhile, requested a private meeting with Emma later that afternoon. The CEO's office was intimidating, yet Emma entered with her usual poise. Emma, Jonathan began, his tone surprisingly softer than usual. I received something unusual yesterday. He paused, glancing at the card sitting on his desk. Emma's eyes widened. I don't understand. Jonathan handed her the card. Your daughter, she came here herself. And I can't stop thinking about her words. Emma felt tears prick at her eyes. Sophie, she whispered, astonished. She went there herself? Jonathan nodded. Yes, and it made me realize that there's more to a person than. At home that evening, Sophie recounted every detail of her trip to the office to her mother. Mommy, I told him that you're the best. I said you help everyone and never give up. Emma hugged her tightly, tears streaming down her face. Sophie, you're so brave. You might have changed everything. Sophie tilted her head, pondering. Sometimes I think adults forget how to care about people, but they listen to little kids like me. Emma smiled through her tears, feeling a swell of pride and love for her daughter's courage. Jonathan called a meeting with the board later that week. I've reconsidered, he told them. Emma Thompson has shown extraordinary dedication. I want to find a way to keep her. Numbers aren't the only measure of value. The board members were skeptical, but Jonathan's mind was made up. Something about Sophie's innocence and her mother's perseverance had pierced through the corporate armor he had built around himself. Meanwhile, Emma remained unaware of the board's discussions. She continued her work, pouring herself into every task, hoping and praying that the miracle she needed would come true. Back at the Thompson apartment, Christmas lights flickered softly on their small tree. Sophie helped her mother hang ornaments, chattering happily, oblivious to the stress of the previous days. Emma smiled, feeling a warmth that had been absent for weeks. Sophie, you make everything brighter, she said. Sophie hugged her mother tightly. Mommy, Christmas is magic. I just know it will help us. Emma laughed softly, holding her daughter close. Maybe it will, sweetheart. Maybe it will. Days passed, and tension grew. Emma's fate hung in the balance, and Jonathan wrestled with his conscience and the demands of the company. Sophie, unaware of the full stakes, continued to prepare small gifts and letters for her mother and even for Mr. Langford, believing that kindness could change hearts. The office atmosphere was thick with anticipation. The city was draped in festive lights, but inside the Langford Corporation, the atmosphere was tense. Jonathan Langford sat at his desk, staring at the card and letter Sophie had delivered. He reread the child's words over and over. Please don't fire my mommy. She's my hero. Every line tugged at a part of his heart he hadn't felt in years. Yet the corporate pressures loomed heavily. The board expected strict cuts, and the numbers demanded decisions. Jonathan leaned back in his chair, rubbing his temples. I can't let a little girl dictate company policy, he muttered to himself, trying to push the emotions aside. But Sophie's innocence lingered in his mind like a gentle whisper, refusing to leave. Emma arrived at the office that morning, trying to hide her anxiety. She had no idea the storm of decisions swirling around her desk. She focused on her work, meticulously reviewing reports and preparing presentations. During lunch, she received a message from Jonathan's assistant. Please meet Mr. Langford in his office at 3 p.m. He wishes to speak with you privately. Emma's heart skipped a beat. Could this be the moment that would decide everything? She tried to calm herself, taking deep breaths, repeating to herself, stay strong. No matter what happens, stay strong. Meanwhile, Sophie had a plan of her own. She couldn't sit idle, waiting for adult decisions. She prepared another little gift, a small handmade ornament with a note that read, To Mr. Langford, thank you for listening. Please remember to care about people, not just numbers. Love, Sophie. She tucked the ornament carefully into her backpack, convinced that kindness could touch even the hardest hearts. Emma entered Jonathan's office at precisely 3 p.m. The room was intimidating, yet she held her head high. Emma, Jonathan began, his voice softer than she expected. I received your daughter's card, and it made me think. Emma swallowed hard. Sir, she began, unsure of what to say. Jonathan gestilt vorher zusieht. I've been reviewing your performance. Every project, every late night, every time you went above and beyond. I see it. But corporate rules, he trailed off. Emma's hands trembled. I understand, sir. I've done my best, and I only want to contribute to the company. Jonathan sighed deeply. It's not just numbers anymore, Emma. Seeing Sophie's courage, it reminded me that human effort and heart cannot be measured in spreadsheets alone. Just as the conversation was reaching a critical point, there was a soft knock on the door. Sophie peeked in, holding her ornament. Daddy, sir, I brought something, she said shyly. Jonathan looked at the little girl, now standing bravely in the doorway, holding a symbol of hope. Sophie, what is this? He asked. She handed him the ornament. It's for you. It's a Christmas ornament. Please remember that people matter, not just numbers. Jonathan's eyes welled up. He held the ornament carefully, as if holding something fragile and precious. Jonathan turned to Emma. "I've made a decision," he said. "Your work has been outstanding, and I cannot justify letting you go. Effective immediately, you keep your position." Emma's eyes filled with tears. "Thank you. Thank you so much," she whispered, her hands clutching her chest. Sophie jumped into her mother's arms, squealing with joy. "You're not getting fired. You're not getting fired." Jonathan watched the scene unfold, feeling an unexpected warmth. For the first time in years, he understood the power of compassion and the importance of human connection. After Emma left, Jonathan sat alone, holding Sophie's ornament. Memories of his own childhood surfaced, his mother working tirelessly to support him, the sacrifices she made, the love she gave despite hardships. He realized how long he had ignored the human side of leadership. He made a silent promise to himself. From now on, kindness and understanding would guide his decisions, not just numbers. That evening, Emma and Sophie returned home to their small apartment, carrying groceries and little Christmas decorations. They laughed, decorating the tree together, their hearts lightened by the day's miracle. "Mommy, it worked!" Sophie exclaimed, placing a star on top of the tree. "Christmas is magic." Emma hugged her daughter tightly. "Yes, sweetheart, Christmas is magic, and you helped make it happen." The warmth of the room contrasted with the cold winter outside. Snowflakes tapped against the windows, but inside, hope and love filled every corner. Jonathan, back at his office, placed Sophie's ornament on his own Christmas tree. He wrote a small note to accompany it. "To Sophie and Emma, thank you for reminding me what truly matters. Happy Christmas, Jonathan." He smiled, realizing that a little girl's courage had changed not just one life, but also the heart of a man who had long forgotten the meaning of kindness. The next morning, Emma received a call from Jonathan. "Emma, I want to personally ensure you feel supported in your work. Also, Sophie's bravery has inspired a new company initiative to recognize employees' contributions beyond numbers," Jonathan said. Emma was overwhelmed. I don't know what to say. Thank you. Say you'll continue being the incredible person you are," Jonathan replied warmly. Emma smiled through tears. "I promise." Sophie, overhearing the conversation, jumped with excitement. "Mommy, I did it. I really did it." Emma hugged her tightly. "Yes, sweetheart, you did it. You saved Christmas for us." The snow continued to fall gently over the city, blanketing streets and rooftops in a serene white. In the small Thompson apartment, a warm glow emanated from the Christmas tree lights. Emma and Sophie were busy hanging the last of the ornaments, laughter filling the room. "This one goes here," Sophie exclaimed, pointing to a small glass angel she had carefully painted. Emma smiled, watching her daughter's excitement. "You really make this place magical, Sophie," she said, hugging her tight. It had been a week since Jonathan Langford's decision, and Emma's world felt lighter. She could finally breathe without the constant fear of losing her job. Yet, the true magic wasn't just keeping her position. It was seeing how courage, love, and innocence had changed hearts. There was a knock at the door. Emma frowned. It was late, and she wasn't expecting anyone. Sophie ran to open it. Standing there, smiling warmly, was Jonathan Langford himself, holding a small wrapped gift. "Hello, Emma." "Sophie," he said gently. "I hope I'm not intruding." Sophie's eyes widened. "Mr. Langford," she squealed. "You came." Jonathan chuckled. "I wanted to personally thank you both. Sophie, for your courage, and Emma, for your dedication. You've both reminded me of what really matters this season." Emma invited him in, slightly surprised but grateful for his presence. The apartment, modest yet filled with warmth and love, seemed to embrace him as he stepped inside. They all gathered around the Christmas tree. Sophie proudly held the angel she had painted, placing it carefully on a branch. Jonathan observed quietly, a soft smile playing on his lips. "I've been reflecting," Jonathan began, addressing Emma. "You've inspired me to rethink how I run this company. People's hard work, dedication, and heart can't just be measured in numbers." Emma blinked, moved by his sincerity. Thank you, sir. That means more than I can say. Sophie chimed in. See, I told you Christmas is magic. Jonathan laughed softly, a rare, genuine sound. Yes, Sophie, you were right. It is magic, and sometimes it only takes one brave little voice to remind adults of it. Jonathan placed the small gift he had brought on the table. Inside was a delicate ornament shaped like a snowflake with a note attached. To Sophie and Emma, thank you for reminding me that kindness, courage, and love are more important than any spreadsheet. Happy Christmas. Jonathan. Sophie hugged him tightly. Thank you. This is the best Christmas ever. Emma hugged her daughter as well, tears welling in her eyes. You've taught all of us something very important, Sophie. Never underestimate the power of kindness. Jonathan nodded. And I promise from now on, this company will strive to recognize not just results, but the heart behind the work. In the following days, the Thompson apartment became a hub of small Christmas celebrations. Neighbors and colleagues were invited to enjoy cookies, cocoa, and laughter. Sophie's courage had not only saved her mother's job, but had also inspired a ripple of goodwill in the community. Emma noticed how small acts of bravery and honesty could create big changes. She watched Sophie sharing cookies with neighborhood children, laughing and spreading joy, and she felt immense pride in her daughter's heart. Jonathan occasionally visited to check on Emma's department, always showing encouragement and support, setting a new tone for the company culture. Christmas Eve arrived with a heavy blanket of fresh snow. Emma and Sophie lit candles on the windowsill, their glow reflecting in the falling snow outside. Jonathan had sent a special Christmas hamper with personal notes for both of them, celebrating their courage, love, and perseverance. Sophie, holding her stuffed bunny, whispered to her mother, "Mommy, this is the best Christmas ever. You're safe. We're happy. And Mr. Langford is nice now." Emma hugged her tightly, feeling tears of joy streaming down her cheek. Back at the Langford Corporation, Jonathan implemented a new initiative, recognizing employees for dedication, kindness, and teamwork, not just their results. The company culture began to shift, and employees felt valued and motivated. Jonathan often thought of Sophie's bravery and Emma's hard work, and he knew that the smallest acts of courage could change not only lives but entire communities. Emma reflected on the journey they had gone through, the fear, the struggle, the hope, and finally, the miracle. She realized that the true spirit of Christmas was about family, love, and believing in the goodness of people. Sophie, curled up beside her mother with her bunny, whispered softly, "Mommy, we did it. We really did it." Emma smiled, kissing the top of her daughter's head. "Yes, Sophie, we did it. And because of you, the world feels a little brighter." Jonathan, watching from a distance during a quiet visit, smiled knowingly. The little girl's courage had taught him what he had long forgotten, that human kindness and compassion are the most powerful forces of all. The Thompson family learned that courage, honesty, and love could overcome fear and uncertainty. Sophie's innocence reminded adults of the importance of compassion. Emma's perseverance demonstrated that dedication and heart could change not just personal circumstances, but also influence others. Jonathan's transformation showed that even in a world driven by numbers and rules, a little humanity and a brave little voice could create a miracle. And as the snow continued to fall outside, inside the little apartment, hearts were full, laughter echoed, and Christmas truly came alive.